leaders in Copenhagen supported proposals to ramp up the development of drone and anti-drone technology, as well as the use of frozen Russian assets. Israeli forces stopped dozens of ships as part of the flotilla carrying aid to Gaza, sparking global outrage and protests.
Volodymyr Zelensky and head of the UN nuclear watchdog Rafael Grossi say the loss of external power to Zaporizhzhia's nuclear power plant is concerning.
EU leaders that gathered in Copenhagen on Wednesday gave broad support to proposals to ramp up the development of drone and anti-drone technology. Ahead of the meeting, the European Commission released a document which outlines 4 projects that it believes need to be financed and implemented as a matter of urgency. The summit and proposal come as Europe faced a series of airspace violations in recent weeks.
So we have to create a European ecosystem that will enable Europe to develop cutting-edge drone solutions, inspired by what they are doing in Ukraine already.
The leaders also discussed a proposal which outlines the use of immobilized Russian assets to loan money to Ukraine. Under the plan, Ukraine would repay the loan after Moscow agrees to compensate for damages. The Commission would repay Euroclear, which would repay Russia.
We are not confiscating the assets, but we are taking the cash balances for loan to Ukraine. Ukraine has to pay back this loan if Russia pays reparations.
The plan earned broad support but was met with resistance by Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever. Von der Leyen sought to assure his reservations and clarified Belgium cannot be the only member state to carry risks. Israeli forces stopped dozens of ships carrying humanitarian aid for Gaza, organizers of the flotilla said on Thursday morning. Some remaining boats were still on their way to the war-ravaged enclave at that time. The group had been live-streaming its mission before the connection of some of its boats was disrupted. The group reported Israeli forces illegally boarded its vessels. Israel had previously warned the ships to turn back and said it could deliver the aid through different channels, but the flotilla remains undeterred and emphasized the peaceful nature of its mission. Israel's interception sparked widespread outrage, with protests erupting across the globe. Thousands took to the streets in countries including Italy, Belgium, Greece, Spain, Turkey, Argentina, and Colombia.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and the head of the UN nuclear watchdog Rafael Grossi have raised concerns about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant's loss of external power supply more than a week ago. The situation raises serious safety concerns at the Russian-occupied plant as the war continues to rage around the facility. Grossi said the plant is currently receiving power from emergency diesel generators to power and cool its 6 non-operational reactors, noting that there's no immediate danger to the site yet. He, however, added that this is not a sustainable method and could prove risky in terms of nuclear safety if it prolongs. Zelensky says the backup generators have never needed to run this long, describing the situation as critical, as he stressed that the plant was not designed to operate this way. The Ukrainian leader slammed Moscow for cutting the power lines to the plant in one of its attacks. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov rejected the accusation, instead saying the power lines were damaged by Ukrainian shelling. Grossi said IAEA inspectors verified that the facility can continue to safely operate on generators for more than 10 days. He also said, however, that he was in touch with Ukrainian and Russian officials about how to swiftly reconnect the plant to the grid to mitigate potential crises. Pope Leo XIV has weighed in on U.S. politics for the first time since being elected in May, commenting on hot topics roiling the domestic scene, like abortion and immigration. The first U.S.-born pontiff pointed out contradictions surrounding the anti-abortion debate and questioned what it really means to be pro-life.
Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States. I don't know if that's pro-life. So they're very complex issues.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt disputed the concerns raised by the Pope.
I would reject there is inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration. There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration. This administration is trying to enforce our nation's laws in the most humane way possible, and we're upholding the law, and we're doing that on behalf of the people of our country who live here.
The Pope's comments came after Chicago Cardinal Blaise Cupich nominated Illinois Senator Dick Durbin for the Lifetime Achievement Award for his work on helping immigrants. Durbin's nomination drew heavy criticism from conservative U.S. bishops, who rejected him due to his strong support for female abortion rights, which goes against the Vatican's official position. Durbin has since declined the award, causing Cupich to call for greater unity and less polarization in order to advance the role of the Church in the U.S. political scene.
For European Sports Week, athletes with intellectual disabilities from all over the EU and European civil servants try their hand at boccia and table tennis. The event, organized by Special Olympics at the European Commission, aims to promote the inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities in the EU. It's an opportunity to challenge persistent prejudices in sport and in society.
People are scared. They don't know how to speak with special people, and they think they are only kids, but we are human beings. We work, we're going to school, we have friends.
People with intellectual disabilities often face stigmatization and isolation, warns the president of Special Olympics Europe and Eurasia.
Regrettably, globally, it's the most underemployed, undereducated, the most unhealthy, regrettably the most trafficked, the most exploited, often the most abused. The plight facing people with intellectual disabilities is scandalous.
In his view, the emphasis must be on education and awareness raising.
Look around you. These people will go back to their offices and they'll have a different understanding of what intellectual disability is. Maybe it's intellectual ability. Maybe it's different abilities. A lot of it has to do with that social education, that awareness raising, the proximity.
Over 20 million people have intellectual disabilities in Europe.
We provide the service module, so that's the module behind the crew module that basically contains everything that we need to keep the astronauts alive on their journey to the moon. So it's got water tanks, it's got tanks of oxygen and nitrogen to provide the air, and then I guess most importantly it's got the propulsion module as well that will actually provide the thrust to push the astronauts to the moon and bring them back again. Apollo was very much about sort of short-term missions. You go there, you do some science, you come back. But with Artemis, it's all about sort of building up a sustainable human presence on and around the moon. So we want to use the moon as a stepping stone for future travel to Mars. I mean, it's very difficult to go directly from Earth to Mars. It takes a lot of fuel, a lot of energy to get there. So it's much better if you can use something like the moon as like a leap pad to take you there.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis II crew.